everyone, and welcome to my review for Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Before I dive into that, what's with the whole Hawaiian getup? I don't really know. This is supposed to be like my 1960s look, so I guess if you saw me running around in California with all the hippies and whatnot, it'd be something along the lines of this. I'm like half blind right now, so I almost feel like I should be like this. As I said, this is my review for Quentin Tarantino's 9th film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Al Pacino, Luke Perry, Timothy Olyphant, Damian Lewis, Emile Hirsch. There's quite a big cast of this movie, but I will say that this movie is ultimately a buddy relationship with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Rick Dalton, and Brad Pitt's character, Cliff Booth, who is his stuntman. First off, let me just give you my first reactions to the movie. I knew I enjoyed the movie, like right when it was, like right away when the movie was done, I knew I really enjoyed myself during this movie, but there was still some elements of the movie that left me kind of feeling unsure, unsettled, not really quite sure how I should take it. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that if I'm watching a movie and I see afterwards that I can't quite just say right off the top if it was good or if it was bad, sometimes this could be good, sometimes this could be bad, but ultimately I find it's more good than bad if I actually have to think about a movie longer after the fact than just right away come up with my opinion for it. So after sleeping on it and thinking about it a little bit more, doing actually a little bit more research into the Charles Manson family murder like backdrop that is a big part of this movie, I can say with certainty that this is a very good movie, and it's one that I think you should see. The plot of this movie is Leonardo DiCaprio's character is, I guess, primarily a TV actor named Rick Dalton. He has been in like a lot of like guest spots on TV shows, but primarily he's known for this Western TV show called Bounty Law. This isn't actually something I can speak with a great degree of certainty to, but I'm sure it captured at one point like this like 1950s style of TV show that probably was pretty popular back in the day. But as Hollywood has been changing, especially in the in the hills of Hollywood and California and all that, the landscape is just changing and things are going more towards film, and so he's trying to break into more of a film star role instead of a television star role, and he's having a lot of troubles and difficulties figuring this out and seeing if possibly his best years are behind him, and if maybe now he could possibly just be a washed up actor. Brad Pitt is his stunt double, who that actually, I thought that was actually one of the most interesting parts of the movie, was just seeing how a relationship works between an actor and their stunt person, and just to see how relatively close the people are. In this movie, I have a feeling this has changed more in recent years, or I could be wrong, I'm not in the industry, but it does seem that their relationship is a lot closer than what it probably would need to be called for today in the relationship between an actor and a stunt person. I really liked their relationship together in this movie, and their chemistry was like off the charts good. Brad Pitt it's one of his best acting things I think I've seen from him. I've liked him in movies before, but I've never always been super blown away by Brad Pitt. I mean, definitely more Leonardo DiCaprio if I'm talking acting caliber wise, but I'll give credit where credit's due. Brad Pitt stole a lot of the it's a reference to a scene in this movie. But Brad Pitt stole a majority of the movie when he was in, and I really liked his character, had this, really great vibe about him, and you could tell that they actually did a lot of homework into, how stunt people worked and whatnot, so I really appreciated that. And then Leonardo DiCaprio, interesting to see him do a role like this, because his character to me felt like this, he knew he was had looks and had some charisma and stuff, but he kind of was like, he's like an alcoholic a little bit. He's definitely seen better days. He doesn't really take care of himself. And he's also just not the smartest guy in the world. It seems like he kind of has to be babied and pampered a little bit, which is, you know, sort of a cliche that you hear about, you know, really big Hollywood actors, is that they're just kind of babies and that they don't know how to, you know, actually handle real life, so to speak. So that's why they're always playing these characters. But I really liked a lot of the character choices that Dicaprio made with it. Specifically, one that I'm actually not sure if everybody would have picked up on this, but off and on throughout the movie, he has a stutter, and it seems to come up like when his character is like feeling nervous or inadequate in a situation. But it's very subtle, and the movie, like, there's never any one point that a character's like, hey, like, why are you doing that? Like, it's just a nice little nugget for the audience to kind of mull over and think about, be like, well, why does he do that? You know, does he always have this problem? So I really, really like that. And DiCaprio's best scene, hands down, in the movie, I think, is his meltdown scene that he has in a trailer where he's messing up some lines on a show that he's on, and he just loses it. That felt so authentic and real to me, and I'm like, even though it's like, you know, pretty over the top, and I wonder, you know, how many times an actor has probably felt that way, like, it felt very real, and that's just a testament to DiCaprio's skills as an actor. He's also funny too. He's very funny in the movie, and everybody has some humorous moments in the movie, and large part of that is also due to Quentin Tarantino's writing. His dialogue is, as always, very, very easy to listen to, and just has a real rhythm and flow to it, and just the vernacular and the vocabulary that these characters share with each other. It's great. Okay, I'll talk about Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. You know, this is something that, you know, this stuff happened way before my time. I'm no expert on Sharon Tate. I know that she was married to the famous film director Roman Polanski, who at the time was big for a movie like Rosemary's Baby. So the movie is flirting with fact and fiction on that, similar to how he did that with Inglourious Basterds, of how there were some real people presented in the movie, but also with fictionalized events. So that is similar in this movie, but I thought he does it in this movie with great effect. Tarantino does. Quentin Tarantino soundtracks, if you watch his movies, most soundtracks for his movies are either eclectic or unique, or at the very least you remember them for a lot of the scenes, and I really also dug the soundtrack of this movie. It was one of the ones where I found myself looking it up on Spotify shortly after the movie was done, being like, okay, I want to find the song that was from this scene, this scene, this scene. One particular scene I very much enjoyed, and some people might say that it's not even necessarily adding to the plot, but I don't think that's the point for a movie like this, because this, to me, felt more like, I heard another reviewer on YouTube comment about this, saying how it almost kind of felt like Tarantino's Big Lebowski, or maybe like Tarantino's Dazed and Confused. Because this felt like a hangout movie for part of it. The narrative structure of this movie, as classic as it is with Tarantino, is definitely non-traditional and does not go with a lot of preconceived notions and expectations that you would have by going into other movies with similar subject matter. So there was this great scene where Brad Pitt's just kind of driving along Hollywood. He's just cruising along, and he's listening to Bob Seger's Ramblin' Gamblin' Man. I'm probably messing up the title of that song. That's a great song, though. I mean, it's a short one, but it's just, if you crank that song up and you're driving along the highway, here, look, I gotta put on my glasses for this. If you're cranking that up, you're driving along, like, you're just gonna be like, ooh, yeah, like, this is me driving a car. It's cool. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Here, I'm actually gonna interweave like 2 seconds of the song in here, so watch. 'Cause I was born lonely. You get my point. That whole thing was cool, and I just think that part of the movie, or parts of the movie that were like that, some of that's just done for the love of filmmaking and just to show just really what a neat time that would have been in Hollywood to be in and just to be a part of. So that was one of the things where I kind of had to think about it after the movie, because there were scenes like that didn't seem that they played much of a purpose to the story. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I just liked living in the space with the characters, and I liked just seeing them do basic stuff, getting from point A to point B and just sort of living a day in their shoes. So I don't know, I really appreciated that after I started thinking about it a lot more. Third act is definitely one of the, I'd say it pays off more than a lot of third acts I've seen in movies before. You do have a purposely slow setup to get to this finale of the movie. And boy, what a finale. I love the third act of this movie, as well as the first act. The second act is, and again, I've been hearing this from a lot of different people, the second act did drag on for me a little bit, particularly with this scene that's on this ranch where a lot of his, Charles Manson's followers live. It's a necessary scene for the movie, and like I get why it was, I guess, as meaty as it was, but I really don't actually think it needed to go on for as long as it did. But when you get to the third act, you will see why it got as much time as it did, because it's necessary. But anywho, the third act of this movie, wow. I know I've been kind of spoiling some bits and pieces of the movie, but I will not spoil the third act. That is something that you should go into with a very fresh pair of eyes and just see what you think about it at the end. But I very much enjoyed it. This is a movie I would actually love to watch the behind the scenes for, just because of the level of detail that they used in creating this 1960s look for Hollywood. I think it's nothing short of phenomenal, just from a technical perspective alone. And then I thought the acting was fantastic. Kurt Russell's in the movie. I mean, he's awesome. The acting was great. I thought the story was great, despite a couple of long kind of drawn out scenes, so to speak. But I think it's a movie where, again, when you think about it, and if you were to go back and rewatch it, you wouldn't mind those scenes being as long as they were. I don't know. I very much enjoyed this movie. If you're a Quentin Tarantino fan, I think you should go see it. It's cool, it's hip, it's edgy, like most Tarantino movies, and I guarantee you it's not like any other movie that you're likely to see anytime soon. So if nothing else for that fact, simply just go and check out this movie. I'm going to go ahead and give Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood an A. This is a really good movie. It's unlike anything that you've seen before, and I highly recommend that you check it out. And also just, I don't know, cruise around with the soundtrack. I really want to, like I said, drive around with my car and just enjoy. I don't really know. I love movies for that too. Just kind of on an unrelated thing. I love listening to a movie that's got a great soundtrack and just adding it to my playlist of music that I'll either work out to or cruise around in my car to, or just kind of chill to when I'm working in my office. So I love it just for that reason alone. Thank you very much for watching. Check out this movie, and I'm going to get out of this Hawaiian shirt right now so I can actually go out not looking like I'm going to see Jimmy Buffett. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.